Oh, happy Wednesday, everybody. I think last week when I came on, I was all bundled up in a sweater and mad about how cold it was. And now it's summer. Shorts, t-shirt, iced coffee. It's great. Anyway, for anybody who's new here, my name is Lindsey Hall. I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach. And that means that I love to help women deepen into intimacy with themselves and with others. I like to help you own your power and your pleasure and live a joyful life that you absolutely fucking love. And that is why I do everything I do on here. So I do these weekly tea break chats where I come on and every week and I talk about what's been going on in my life for the past week, what's come up, what's been fun, what's been challenging, what lessons I've learned, just, random stuff from the past week. And then I answer your questions that you guys send to me. So this is the part, literally every time I get here and I'm like, what has been going on this week? Good question. So this past week, well, let's see, if I think about the weekend, it was glorious, just simply glorious. And I have really been, this phase that I'm in right now has been a lot about really deeply embodying all of the work that I do, the work that I've been doing for myself for years, the work that I coach you guys through. And it's just been this season of like embodying it deeper and deeper into my body. So it's no longer like trying to do the things. It just is how I live my life. And what I mean by that is stuff like really being present and enjoying the pleasure all around me in life and really just soaking it all in and like honestly living this joyful life. That does not mean that it's like joyful all the time by any means, but I'm just really like finding it all over the place. So this weekend, like I said, was just amazing. And the only thing that we had planned really was a friend's kid's birthday party on the Saturday. So 12:30 on Saturday, I was taking both of my girls to a soft play center for this birthday party. It was going to be a 2-hour party, and that was the only thing I had the whole weekend, really. Well, while we were at the party, was talking to one of my friends and said, "Oh, what are you guys doing after this?" And he suddenly took that and turned it into, "Why don't you all come over and we'll continue the party in our garden? Like, we'll just let the kids run in the paddling pool and we'll throw some meat on the grill and it'll be great." And that's exactly what we did. And they've got this beautiful enclosed garden with like, it's like a secret garden back there. The kids always love it. And this time was no exception. So we showed up and said, because it was really close to where the party was, there was no point in us coming back across town to get change of clothes and that sort of thing and then going back. So we showed up at my friend's house and said, "Hey, can we have some change of clothes?" So she had extra swimsuits for my girls to wear, a summer dress for me to wear because I'd been in jeans because I didn't want to crawl around soft play in shorts. And it was freaking hot this weekend. So yeah, she decked us all out in spare clothes and sunscreen. We spent hours in the back garden, just the kids, like I said, were going crazy. These were friends who, all of our kids are the same age. So we met at NCT classes, which is the childbirth classes. So we've been friends since before our kids were born, and that was 6 years ago. So we had these, like just the kids running all around, and the grown-ups just sitting and chatting. And it was so nice. And I usually am very uptight about bedtimes because my kids, particularly the 6-year-old, is a bit of a nightmare when she doesn't get enough sleep. So she doesn't get grumpy that night if you keep her up late, but the next day, her ears don't work when she doesn't get enough sleep. Like her ears just do not work. She cannot hear anything. So then I get snappy and then she's upset and she's more emotional and ugh. And we've been having a lot of that lately because she's been struggling to get to sleep at night. But because she'd been struggling to get to sleep at night, I was like, you know what? Instead of me being my usual uptight self about getting home really early for bedtime, let's just stay a bit longer. We'll have dinner here for once. It's really helpful too that the friend's house that we were at, he is gluten intolerant. So providing gluten-free food for us is easy. So we stayed longer. We had dinner. I kept them up past their bedtime. We got home when they would normally have been in bed already. They were absolutely filthy, like just covered in dirt and stick and grime and ugh. But I was like, you know what? We're not even taking a bath tonight. I'm just going to shove you straight in bed and then we're going to have a morning bath. which is what we did. And they found having a morning bath to be hilarious. They got in the bath at like 9:30 in the morning and kept saying to me, "Are we going to bed after this? What's our bedtime story going to be, Mommy?" And it was just so funny to watch them get such like intense joy out of this change of routine that we do every day. It was like the funniest thing ever. And so I think it was really the soaking in the joy and the pleasure from all of that, the knowing when, like, because I do not do strict routine for a lot of things. Like I am pretty like go with the flow in a lot of ways in my parenting. It's just the bedtime thing that I usually am a stickler about. But that makes it that much more fun when you deviate from it. And it was so fun for all of us for that reason. Like it was just great. And then Sunday ended up being a unexpected, go with the flow kind of fun day as well. So I dropped the girls off with their dad at noon on Sunday, which is not the normal schedule. So usually this would have been our split weekend and they would have stayed with me Saturday night and gone to their dad's house like kind of first thing on Sunday morning. But their dad had been at a concert the night before and asked if I could keep them a bit longer to give him recovery time, because we all know what it's like to parent crazy little children when you've been out late the night before. It's certainly not something I relish and I try to avoid at all costs. So I kept the girls a few extra hours to give them time to sort themselves out. And so brought the girls back and then it's like, oh, well, now what do I do? So I had to bring something back to a friend's house, and she said, oh, we're actually going back to our friend, the one with the massive garden. We're going back there again this afternoon to go hang out. And it's like, I'm going to get some Pimm's. And for those of you who are not English, who are watching this, you're like, what's Pimm's? It is the summer drink around here. It's an alcohol, and you mix it with lemonade, which is like Sprite. The Pimm's and lemonade, and then you put fresh fruit in it and mint, and other people do cucumbers, but I hate cucumbers and it makes my whole drink taste like cucumber. But so anyway, but it's so summery and refreshing, and I hadn't had one yet. So I went and got the Pimm's ingredients and brought them over to my friend's house. And while their kids, but not mine this time, so their kids were all playing in the water again, we just sat and had a drink of Pimm's and played cards. Well, they played cards. I got there too late and I just watched them play. And it was so wonderful. And I think the reason I'm sharing all of this is to say that this is what happens when you really embody the pleasure, the finding the joy in life, the going with the flow. And also, number 2, B, I don't remember what I said, A or 1. Anyway, the other thing is that this is what happens when you leave space, when you don't plan and fill every single thing to down to the minute, pack your whole weekend full, which absolutely, if that makes you happy, go for it. There's no shame if you like to pack everything full. Totally fine. I don't. I do not at all. And I used to pack my schedule full a lot more before COVID, before a second child, before I became a single parent, all of that stuff. And now that is so constricting and awful to me. And kids are just so unpredictable and I'm unpredictable. And so, if I make plans, we might not want to go that day for whatever reason, or, somebody's sick, or we're just having a slow morning, or whatever it is. So I do make plans, but I usually don't do more than, I almost never do I plan for more than one thing a day. I often only do one thing a weekend even, and then the rest of the time, for me, it feels so good and yummy to leave this spaciousness, to leave space for whatever wants to come up. And a lot of the time, that means we stay home and we play in our garden, or we get out toys we haven't played with before, or we go for a walk around the block, or we go to the local park. A lot of the time, it ends up being quite small stuff, but I love that, and so do my kids. The table right now is filled with stuff that I haven't cleaned up from the weekend. They've got these writing books. So both my 3-year-old and my 6-year-old have these writing books that they love to practice the writing in, or their numbers, and we'll spend ages doing that, or just little stuff that I really enjoy the around the house stuff. And I should point out that I did not, when it was pre-COVID and I had one kid and we were still married, and I was like I said, I planned everything and I hated the idea of staying at home. It was so stressful. Whereas now, because of all of this stuff, I really enjoy it because, and I think a big part of that is not feeling the pressure to perform. I don't have to plan a ton of activities in order to have a good time around here. We find so much joy in just the little moments. Sometimes I plan activities. Certainly in lockdown, I was a big fan of the 5-Minute Mom. If you haven't found her stuff, she's got a book and Instagram, 5-Minute Mom. It was full of amazing, she is full of amazing ideas. So I used to do stuff like that. It's actually been a while since I've done those, and Evie might like some. So maybe I'll get that out again. But I don't have to. Like, we can just have so much joy in the little moments. And again, like, it's the spaciousness for me, because that is when there's room for the magic to happen. And I want to let the magic in my life, because often what ends up happening then is better than what I would have planned anyway. Like, the stuff that just happens, seemingly out of nowhere is usually, the magical stuff. So that was kind of the weekend. And then also, on a similar note, I think the next thing has been this week. Hang on, this is really good iced coffee. Side note, I've just been learning how to make these. I've never done iced coffee at home before. And the first one I made was really like, this is not quite hitting a spot. And I've tweaked it a few times since then, and now it's really good. So I've got some vanilla syrup in here, and I use hazelnut milk. Definitely delicious. Anyway, that wasn't the point. The other thing I was going to say about this whole, not scheduling everything to the nth degree and leaving spaciousness and seeing what comes up and embracing the joy is, you might have seen, if you follow my social media, that I've been putting out the call to talk to anybody who is divorced, separated, split from a long-term relationship, etc., because I'm updating my Dating After Divorce program, and I want to make sure that I'm covering as much helpful stuff as possible in it. Because when I first made it, it was mostly made from my experiences, which is super helpful, but is a sample size of one. And so as I've been coaching more, and then this week, I really want to reach out to as many people as possible and hear their stories and hear the challenges and the fears and the celebrations and all the stuff that comes up with starting to date again or being in a new relationship again or all of that after a big breakup. And I had loads of room on my calendar this week. It was pretty darn free. And my weekend is pretty free because it's kid-free this weekend. And I didn't have, again, it was not booked up with plans. So I've been able to do a booking link where I had tons of availability. And I've just been showering it everywhere to talk to people, to say book whatever time works best for you and come jump on a call with me and share this with me. And I've done 3 of them so far, and I've got quite a few more booked this week. And it's been fascinating to hear the stories, and also a privilege because you guys opening up to me and sharing this stuff with me is really please don't ever think I take it for granted, because I don't. It's such an honor that you share this with me, and super, super useful, because there's definitely stuff coming up where I'm oh yes, I should include that. Oh, I didn't, maybe I touched on that, but it wasn't deep enough, or, oh yeah, I'm seeing that. So it's really helpful. And this wouldn't have been possible if all of my time was booked up like crazy. So again, I think just leaving space in your life is where then when you get those ideas, you can act on them. When something comes up, you can say yes to it. You can decide, does this feel good or not feel good? And these calls this week feel so good. So, and by the way, if you're listening to this in the next few days and you are separated, divorced, split from a long-term relationship, blah, 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 and you want to help me as well and share your stories, please let me know. I would love to talk to you, especially if you are a man. So I've got everybody who I've either talked to or is booked has been a woman so far, and it's amazing, and I would love to talk to more of you women as well. But I haven't talked to any men yet, and I need some help getting some men on to talk to me because most of my audience is women, which has been intentional because that's who I usually coach. But I want this program to be for everybody. Also, doesn't have to be a man or a woman, non-binary, however you identify, fine, happy, you are welcome here. Please come in and chat to me. So if you want to share that and you want to help me out and jump on a call or share it with somebody who will be willing to talk to me, please do. I will appreciate it forever. So yeah, I feel like I've been talking so fast, I barely caught my breath in that one. What was I saying about spaciousness? Leave room to breathe, Lindsey. Okay, so then questions for this week. Not surprisingly, questions have been to do with divorce, because that's what I've been talking about again a lot more this week. So one question that I had was, would I ever trade it? Would I go back to being married and trade what I have now for the married life that I thought I anticipated? And the question was like back to my marriage, not a new relationship. And the answer is no. Like, yes, I do grieve still. It's been 3.5 years, and sometimes I still grieve over the loss of the nuclear family life that I had once envisioned for my life. Not once, for my entire life up until the point I got divorced. I had this vision of what that would look like, what my marriage would look like, my life, my family. And so, yeah, that is hard to give up. It certainly, I grieved a lot more at the beginning, but even now, after all this time, it still comes up sometimes where I'm like, what could have been? And so, yes, that is hard. But, and also, single parenting is hard. And I've got, I had toddlers and now slightly older children on my own. And like, Lord, is that intense and all of that stuff. But I wouldn't trade it because of who I've discovered in myself and what I have discovered for myself, my relationship with my kids, what I get to model for my girls, how I get to show up in relationships, what my next relationship is going to look like. All of that is absolutely magic, and I would not trade it. Even though the heartbreak of breaking up with my husband was like devastating, and even though it hurt like hell and it was so hard and I had a newborn and a toddler and lockdown on my own, don't get me wrong, it was not pretty. It was really awful for a long time. And still, I would do it again, knowing it's going to get me here, knowing the relationship I have with my girls, knowing how I feel about myself, about life, about my excitement about what's still coming, like all of that. Absolutely, hands down, for me, was the best thing. So I guess my point there is, if you are at, an earlier stage of this and you're like, I can't even contemplate it, or like I'm in it and it's the worst thing ever and am I ever going to feel better? Yeah, you will. And time does heal a lot, but also I believe that intentionality is the best healer. So time does not heal everything. I know people have been divorced for 30, 40 years and still hold on to a lot of old hurts and wounds that have been, maybe scabbed over, but it doesn't take much for that scab to come off and the wound to start bleeding again. Whereas it's the intentionality that heals those wounds. And so it can get better, but absolutely you can do your part in helping that too. I hope that answered the question. I feel like I went on a little bit of a tangent there. Sorry. Okay, and then the other question I had was about introducing my kids to people I'm dating. And again, I'm sure this came up because it's what I'm talking about. But no, so the question was, have I ever introduced my kids to anybody I've dated? And no, not yet. I have not. None of the relationships have ever gotten to the point where I thought that was something I was interested in doing. They did meet, two people actually on video call briefly. So one was somebody who I was dating from back in the States. So it was the whole thing was long distance. And so my kids sent a video message to him a couple times, not knowing that he was like my boyfriend or anything like that. It was just a friend. So that was, but that was all that one was. And then there was another guy who I dated for a couple months, and I was on a video call with him one time, and the girls saw him for like, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds on the video call. It wasn't much at all. But that was 6 months ago, more, probably 7 months ago, 8, I don't know, something like that, last fall. And that was it. It was really only like a very few seconds in this video call. And then, but that at the time prompted some questions about like who it was and why I was talking to him. And And at the time I said, like, when Nora asked me, she was 5 then, my 5-year-old asked me, is he your boyfriend? And I explained that we were not. We were friends, but we were deciding if we were friends who were deciding if we liked each other enough to be boyfriend-girlfriend or not. And so we had good conversations about it then. Anyway, he and I broke up. Nora never asked any more questions about it. Months and months and months have gone by. This past week, out of the blue, she asked me, she said, Mommy, do you remember your friend blah, blah, blah? And I was like, yeah. She said, I think that you guys should be boyfriend and girlfriend, and then I think you should get married, and he can be my stepdad. And I was like, what? Where did all that come from? And she's decided that she wants a stepdad because at her dad's house, she has a stepmom. They're not married, but they live together. They're family, basically a stepmom. And her stepsisters, who live there with them, also 50-50, their dad is getting remarried, so they're going to have a stepmom and a stepdad. So she says, my stepsisters have, 4 parents, and I only have 3, and I want stepdad, so I think you should marry that guy that you were dating way back then. And I was like, child, that is not how this works. I didn't say it exactly like that, but also not far off. And so I got to explain to her that, remember how I said that we were friends who were deciding if we wanted to be boyfriend and girlfriend? We decided we didn't want to. And so, no, I'm not dating him. I'm not going to marry him. Also, you don't need a stepdad. You're not missing out on anything at all. I promise you. You have 2 homes with parents who absolutely adore you. And that, if and when I do get remarried, it's not going to be because you want a stepdad. It's going to be because I find somebody who I am in love with and want to spend the rest of my life with, and not to give you a stepdad. And she was like, oh. So that, to me, goes back to the question of, have you ever introduced your kids to somebody you're dating? That showed me that, even from that tiny interaction, months later, it lodges in their brains. So I don't want to go through that all the time. But that said, I have been considering it lately in terms of, I also don't want to wait until, I don't want to never introduce anybody and only introduce them to the person that I, marry next or something like that, because that's also not how relationships work. I also think it can be helpful, as she is very much, Evie's 3 and doesn't really care yet. But the 6-year-old is very much trying to figure out relationships. She's got a boyfriend at school, and, but what does that actually mean, Mommy? And so-and-so a boyfriend, and I don't know what that means. And she's trying to figure out relationships between humans. And so I don't want her to think that the only, you marry the boyfriend that you have, and that's the only answer. I do want them to understand that relationships can come and go, and here's how healthy beginnings and endings and middles can look. And I want to teach them about relationships. So that has been coming into my mind more lately as well, of okay, I am certainly not going to introduce them to every man willy-nilly, a parade of men coming in and out of their lives. I don't want that. But equally, I maybe don't need to wait until it's insanely serious and I think I'm going to be with this person for a long term, because I want them to see that actually people can come and go, and that's natural and a part of it, and that's okay. So, but I would do that in a way that my girls don't get particularly attached to this person. So it's more in my head, it's more of you can know I have a boyfriend, and you can, meet them and possibly do a few things with them, but I don't want them to become part of our family unit until it is much more serious. I don't know if this is making sense. It's not entirely firmly formed in my brain either, because it's more of a, we'll have to see how it goes when it comes up. And still, there's been nobody who is at that point yet where I want to do that, but it's just been an idea I've been playing with more lately. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So, is there anything else from me this week? Those are the only questions I had. Is there anything else I want to talk about? I kind of don't think so, but let me think. Well, I have one more drink of this yummy coffee. It is decaf, by the way. So the fact that I'm talking a million miles an hour has nothing to do with the coffee because it's decaf. No, I think that's all I wanted to cover this week. So I will leave it there. I will say that if you have enjoyed this and there's stuff that you want to talk about or anything that's come up for you, please let me know. I never want this to just be like a monologue of me talking at you. I want these to be conversations. That is why it's called a tea break chat. Chats usually involve multiple people, so please chat to me. I am so here for it. You can do it in the comments. You can send me an email or a message on social media. If you are watching this on YouTube, come find me on Instagram. It's at Lindsey Hall Coaches, which is in the comments, description, whatever, below. If you're already here on Instagram, hiya! Check out my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com, if you want to find out the ways that you can work with me. Like I said earlier, if you are divorced, separated, long-term relationship, split, all of that stuff, and you want to help me with my research for the Dating After Divorce program, if you've got thoughts, stories, you're like, oh my God, people need to know this, like whatever it is, please send me a message and let me know. If you want to buy the Dating After Divorce program, there is a current version already up on the website, and the new one will be coming in due course when I get through all of these conversations and get it all pulled together. I think that's it. That's all I got. So check me out. Social media, send me a message, check out my website, all the things, stay in touch. I love you lots. I will be here same time next week. So live on Instagram on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Goes up on YouTube on the Thursday usually. And if you have any questions for me, I always put them up on my story box on Instagram on the Tuesday before, or you can send me a message at any time. So if you want me to answer your questions next week, just let me know what it is. Okay. That's it. Have a fabulous Wednesday or whatever day you're watching this, and I'll talk to you later. Mwah!